Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pause for Payments. I'm Kristy Duncan, and I'm delighted to be chatting today with Joleen Young, who's AVP of Wires Modernization at TD Bank based in Toronto. Welcome, Joleen.
Thank you, Kristy, and good morning, everybody.
Joleen and I are going to discuss ISO 20022 and why it is a great transformation tool for business. ISO 20022, it's an emerging global open standard for payments messaging, and it can be a common language and model for payments data across the globe, providing high quality data and therefore higher quality payments processing, straight through processing, and all that good stuff, the holy grail of payments. Joleen, let's start by talking about your role at TD and what your current focus is.
Thank you, Kristy. My role at TD right now is I believe that I can honestly say that I am one of those true vestiges of being a total payments geek. I wanted to have something meaningful to end my 25-year career in payments transformation. My role at TD right now is the business lead for their Wires transformation program. The Wires transformation program is a North American program. TD has taken the bold step forward to say we're going to put in one platform across both the US and in Canada in order to manage and modernize our wires end to end. So my role is going to be to see all of the business opportunities from a banking perspective, whether it's correspondent banking, whether it is retail, whether it is business, corporate, commercial, and also what are the bank-to-bank flows. And this modernization program is going to be replacing two legacy systems and bringing it into one platform, which will be the foundation of all of the other enterprise-wide payments that TD will be implementing in the near future. So it talks to the transformation of current, it is future looking, and adds a lot more digitization for clients as well as for the bank to ensure that it's more efficient and the straight-through processing rates are much higher.
Fantastic. Well, we always love digitization and modernization, and especially when there's a silver lining to the pain of the migration. So until now, the focus has been on the complexity of the technology and what the standard means for financial institutions. But looking at ISO 20022 from a business and a commercial perspective, what do you think the key commercial benefits would be, Joleen?
The key commercial benefits, in my view, is going to provide, everybody speaks about having more information. It's more about having the information in the way that you're able to make sense of it in your back end. If you look at what are the business's key challenges on bringing forward the incoming payments, on incoming payments, the biggest challenge is matching what I'm receiving from whom I'm receiving it, and then being able to allocate it and reconcile it and understand whether it is for the current bill, for the previous bill, for a future bill, or only half of each one of these things. When you look at it, it adds a lot of simplicity. It may be complex in the beginning to get there, but it adds a lot of simplicity in that you're able to ensure that you've got the right client information, you've got the right reconciliation processes. But in addition to that, the processes that you'll be able to extract and the information you'll be able to extract is a deeper sense of analytics, a deeper sense of getting to know your customer and your customer's business. And I think that's the key. The key is I would like to, as a bank or as an institution, I would like to provide my customer with the best information, with the best services that we've got. But if I don't really know and understand their business, if I don't understand their payments cadences, if I don't understand how they are looking to process payments, how they are looking to receive payments, and how they're looking to account for payments, that's where the ISO 20022 standard will give the basis for enriched data analytics and enriched data messaging for clients to know their position, but also for banks to know where their clients are at in their normal business cycle.
That's fantastic. And goodness knows, data and information is fantastic, especially if it's formatted and can be used in some standard way across applications and across organizations. So I love that ISO 20022's got all these amazing benefits. But clearly, for both banks and businesses, it's going to be a little bit of a pig in a python to get over that transformation and migration to the new normal. How complex do you think this is going to be, and is everybody ready for it?
So the complexity is the one big thing, and is everybody ready? So I'll answer these two questions separately. So the complexity, it it will be complex, but there are ways that you can actually just get an understanding of how to eat the elephant one bite at a time, as opposed to saying, oh my, I'm just never going to be able to get it done, and there's just too much to get done. But it's firstly understanding, it's like anytime you want to go on a journey, you're going to plot your destination in, and the map application will ask you where, what is your starting point? Is it your current location? Is it somewhere else? So understanding what your systems are, and the complexity is most businesses have not transformed their base data storage, their base data collection environments, their base transactional transformation programs, as well as their transaction engines for a number of years. So understanding what you've built and customized into those systems in the beginning, that's the first step. The second step is, okay, how much have I got that's still going to be useful in the future? Or what are the key things that I'm missing that I need to add in the future? And is the standard going to help me? And are there elements that I can add into it that I can future proof? And that's the key. The key is to future proof the solution that you're choosing, future proof the information that you'll be able to glean and to gain out of that to do your enhanced data and analytics on those processes, but also make it simpler for the client who's going to be sending you the payments, or the client who's receiving back the result of those payments. So the simplification through standardization, to me, is the key of how you're going to get to that. And looking at the second piece and going forward from there, are banks, are organizations ready for the migration and the change? I don't believe they're fully ready, but I do see a lot of focus on getting ready. There's a lot of discussion around the industry, and specifically where regulators have now started laying down the dates for for compliance to these standards. So it's not only more information, but it's structured in a different way. And getting ready for that is, again, getting an understanding of how your internal systems are structured to accept, consume, and process, as well as send out that data. So there's a long road to go. I think there's a lot of uncertainty of what needs to be done, but that would just take some uh, um, understanding of what are the key elements, what do we have today, and how do we need to change to meet the standard for tomorrow. But the focus is not only the regulatory pieces, the focus is twofold. How am I going to improve my service to my client, and how am I going to improve my operational processing and transformation pieces, as well as what are the benefits from a cash liquidity management perspective for not only for the bank, but also for the client, to understand how they pay, when they pay, and what are the key elements that they would need to build in to ensure that becomes a lot smoother around those liquidity and collateral requirements that they would have in the future.
Indeed. So this sounds like it's going to be a big undertaking, starting with a kind of an inventory of where we are, what we need, how do we future proof so that we can take advantage of new things as they come on stream in the market. So it's going to be a big undertaking. We know that. In your view, Joleen, where is the low-hanging fruit? Where should businesses start to gain the biggest benefits early on?
I think the low-hanging fruit and the biggest benefits are going to be understanding um, the information that you have. So the first part starts with saying, I already collect a lot of information, whether it's from a business perspective or from a bank perspective. So in the collecting of that information, there's a number of things. The information can be useful or it can be static. The information is subject to a number of regulations that govern the what you can keep, how you need to keep it. So data privacy is a very big thing. So from my perspective, before you start reaping the benefits around cash liquidity management and better data governance, it's understanding where you can start making it simple for the organization, whether it's a bank or a corporate, who collect information to adhere to some of those data privacy regulations. So that takes away a lot of overhead around that regulatory environment. The second step says, right, I now have an easier way of ensuring I understand my accounts receivable, my accounts payable, and the cash that I've got in the middle. So that would be the next low hanging fruit for me, is a better understanding of your liquidity position, of the payments that are scheduled for a week, 2 weeks, the next month, but also understanding what is your cash position that gives you a lot better way of understanding and managing what your future expansion processes look like. Where can you go forward, and where do you have sufficient information on your liquidity, your cash flow, to be able to fund those expansion plans without necessarily going into a debt lending situation for that.
Yeah, indeed. It's this whole idea of having the right information at the right time and changing that cash management from an art to more of a science because you have better information.
Agreed.
Wouldn't that be nice? The holy grail for all of us. I love it. So, Joleen, this is really interesting, and we're all looking forward to better cash management, better information to manage our cash and liquidity positions, moving it from an art to more of a science because we have better information. Let's talk about the businesses and how they can use ISO 20022 to differentiate the products and services for their customers. How do you think that ISO 20022 can help them do that?
So for many businesses, their information and the way in which they receive the information differs. So if you're looking at a business that is a supplier of products and services, those products and services, there's a lot of information that can be captured through that, and better inventory control, better stock control, but also identifying the client based on the client's purchasing habits and the client's capabilities from a payments perspective. So, from a purchasing habit perspective, the organization will be able to understand which of the key services or which of the key products that they sell to these particular businesses are more in demand, dependent, whether it is seasonally, whether it is monthly, during the month, at the end of the month, and where they are receiving their payments. So tying the customer to their purchasing habits and tying their payment and where you've seen there are more delays in payments, then you can have a additional elements that you can build into those products and services, saying that we find that closer to your year end, you make more of your payments to square off your books, or we find that at certain times in the month you seem to be delaying in how you are ordering or paying. Let's work out how we can use the information and provide you with a service that gives you more frequent ways of paying, more frequent times that you can pay, less pay as you go, for instance, or a prepayment, a post payment. So there are payment options linked to the customer's purchasing behavior and linked to the customer services. But when you look at a business like insurance, for instance, so there are a number of insurance things, insurance companies out there. What that process looks like is preparing your services to align with how the companies pay. There are ways that you can work with a company to service their clients, add benefits and rewards through those programs. And there are a number of reward programs, but if you've got the 2022 data and the information captured around that, and the efficiency and the enhancements around the understanding of not only the corporate client who has the benefits to it, or the individuals, it's providing that information back to them, providing them with mechanisms to get the products that the client is using more frequently to the client, presented to them in a way that they're able to take advantage of it, and understanding the cycle of payment, and understanding the availability of cash, that you can you can develop products that suit clients in different market segments, that suit clients who have different payment types. They may get paid weekly, they may get paid monthly, they may get paid quarterly or irregularly, but building those products based on the client's cash flow and based on the client, how they're actually doing it, that gives the client the flexibility, but it also gives the company the ability to not be stressed on the collection side of the book. Because the collections piece is where the costs within an organization will start ramping up if there's more effort and more attention required on collections, as opposed to an automated repayment of those monies due.
Fantastic. I love this. Using the information to build that client's profile, to be able to service them and their particular needs better. It's, understanding their purchasing habits as well as their payment profiles and their payment habits really helps the retailer or other business to service those clients better. That's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about how banks can offer their business clients tools to support them through this ISO migration.
That's a great question. When you look at banks, I think banks are doing everything in their power to understand the changing world. So when we have a number of fintechs coming in saying that we can do it quicker, better, faster. However, the playing field oftentimes is not level. The regulatory demands on them are not the same. And when you start dissecting that process, the ecosystem itself needs to have all of the players within the ecosystem. So there's a great divide between the fintech and the bank, which has the trust of the industry, which has the responsibility. So when the bank looks at that, bridging that great divide between what we can do from a regulatory perspective, what we should be doing to understand our clients, and what we need to do to get that product in the hand of the client in the way that it matters to the client at the time it is useful to the client. Banks are able to look through that. Having this data transformation, data governance process, and data privacy layers that are coming into it, we can build as banks, we can build that into the front end. So I always look at it as the design part of it. So designing the product at the point where the customer interacts with the bank is going to be the service. Having one view of the client across all products, across all of the divisions in the bank, using that data as the thin golden thread that you can pull through, that gives the client the information or the knowledge that I believe my bank understands me and I can approach them for any of the products in a way that will help me in the different phases that I will go through as a business. And whether it is a host-to-host connection, whether it's an online solution, whether it is a data pool, a data ingestion, those are the elements that the client can add.
It's been a fantastic discussion, and I know so much more now about ISO 20022 and the benefits for banks and the benefits for customers and their customers as they're all part of the value chain. I want to tie up this discussion with a totally different kind of question, but one that we ask to all of our Positive Payments guests, and that is, if you were to give career advice to the rising stars in our audience, what 2 or 3 nuggets of wisdom might you share?
Wow, that is an amazing question. And that just speaks to something I'm passionate about. If I had to track my career and see the mistakes that I've made, I think there are a couple of elements that I would bring out for the rising stars in especially in the payments world, right? The first thing is live your truest values in every interaction you have, whether it's at home, with your friends, with at work, or in a professional setting. Be who you are and live your truest values. The second one would be don't compromise what you believe in to fit in. So stand up, stand out, stand tall, and know that there are a lot of people that are for you as opposed to always against you. And the last thing is when you are in a position where you see whether it is men or whether it is women putting down another woman, stand up for them because we're only as great as the woman that we stand up for. So being there for them, helping them through that, it's don't always only consider what you would like to get done or what your ambitions are. If you see someone along the way that may not be as bright or as accomplished as you are, spend the time. It'll pay off in the long run. I can promise you that.
I love that, the paying it forward concept. Joleen, I love your career advice, living your values, being authentic, not compromising. That's fantastic advice, especially for people who may still be developing their confidence and building their own personal brands. So thank you so much for sharing your insights, both on ISO 20022 as well as your career pearls of wisdom. It's been great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It was wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Always a pleasure. So I'm going to thank all of our audience today for listening and encourage you all to join us online for not only this discussion with Joleen, but for the other discussions with the amazing women from around the world of payments as we host inspirational leaders from around the world. Thanks, everybody.